expect big things from Minnesota Vikings defensive end, 4th-round draft pick out of South Carolina, 117th overall pick, DJ Wonnum. Now, DJ Wonnum is a defensive end who came out of the draft and was not looking great in college. I mean, he did not look the best in college. But if there is one person in the NFL who knows talent, that is Andre Patterson. Andre Patterson is the best player or the best coach in all of NFL at drafting defensive linemen. He knows talent. He's the one who got Danielle Hunter in the 3rd round of the draft. Andre Patterson knows talent, and he had a say in getting DJ Wonnum. He grabs athletic guys, fast guys, strong guys, and develops them into players. Now, after the Unique Ngakoue trade, Vikings easily lost that trade. When the Vikings traded with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they gave away a 5th round pick and a 2nd round pick for Unique Ngakoue, one of the best edge rushers in the league, and they traded for him. Unfortunately, he did not pan out with the Vikings. Now, he had a great season so far. Unique Ngakoue has had a great season so far, but the Vikings have not. The Vikings started out the season 1-5, and there is no way Unique Ngakoue is going to stay with the team at this point, which is why they traded him. Now, of course, the Vikings needed to trade him, and of course, it was a bad decision to eventually take him in the first place, now given what we know today, but at the point of the trade, it was a great trade. So we got the best we can out of it, and you can't complain. You cannot complain. Now, Danielle Hunter was ruled out for the entire season as our left defensive end. Covering for him is Afadio Odenigbo. Afadio Odenigbo is great. I love what I see from Afadio Odenigbo. Now, with that being said, Afadio Odenigbo is not strong. He's not fast. He's an interior rusher. He's an outside rusher. Afadio Odenigbo is a great depth piece for the Minnesota Vikings. With that being said, I do not think Afadio Odenigbo is a starting defensive end. I know he's a great player. I know he has surprised a lot of people. He had a great season last year. He is not a starting defensive end. Right now, of course, he is because Danielle Hunter is out for the rest of the season. I hope a fast recovery for Danielle Hunter. I hope we can see what we saw from him before in the 2021 season and going forward. With that being said, DJ Wonnum is elite. DJ Wonnum has had a great start to his season so far, filling in for Unique Ngakoue, filling in for Afadio when they were on the sideline. DJ Wonnum has looked great, and I would expect big things from DJ Wonnum because Andre Patterson is his coach, and that is the biggest reason why. The duo between Danielle Hunter and Everson Griffen is unmatched. I don't think the Vikings will have that great of a defensive duo in a long time. But until then, Danielle Hunter and DJ Wonnum can be a great duo, and I would expect big things from DJ Wonnum. Now, of course, the Vikings are one of the best teams at drafting defensive linemen. With that being said, our defensive line has not been great this year. Now, Unique Ngakoue out of 6 games has already recorded 4 sacks, and that's a lot coming from the Vikings team. Because quarterbacks have all the time in the world to pass. Quarterbacks, there's always an open receiver out there because our corners are so young. Our entire secondary is not looking good at all this year. That's a lot. Unique Ngakoue is great. Now, they needed to trade Unique Ngakoue because they likely would not have him after the season, and having him this season wouldn't be very helpful at all because, of course, the Vikings started out 1-5 and are not playing for a playoff berth at all. So getting rid of DJ Wonnum, or getting rid of Unique Ngakoue was a great decision because he would be gone, and getting something out of him at least. Now, this defense is developing. The defense we saw a few years ago is unmatched. I don't think the Vikings can get that. Because you paid a quarterback this much, because you paid a quarterback who throws 10 interceptions this much money, we lost all of our defensive players. Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander, Linval Joseph, Everson Griffen, Sheldon Richardson. The list goes on. The Vikings lost all of their defensive players. And now we only have Danielle Hunter, Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, and I guess you can count Anthony Harris in there too. So those aren't corners. Those aren't big edge rushers. Those aren't big pass rushers outside of Danielle Hunter. Those are not big pass rushers. So those aren't the players you pay a bunch of money to anyways, even though the Vikings are. We lost all of our players because we paid the quarterback this much money. And this is what you're going to see with the Baltimore Ravens going forward. When the Baltimore Ravens have to pay Lamar Jackson, once I think they'll have to extend him this offseason once he's done with his rookie contract, they are going to lose that elite defense. The Baltimore Ravens are a win now team. If they don't win now and they pay Lamar Jackson all that money, they're going to look like the Minnesota Vikings right now and are going to lose all their defensive players. With that being said, I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to fall off as fast as Kirk did. Kirk is not looking good at all this year. And we lost all of our defensive players because of this, and our defense looks awful. We have no lockdown corner. Now, with that being said, they are young corners, and you have to give them time to develop. We still have Harrison Smith. We're going to go over this later in this episode. We are going to go over this later in this episode. But I would expect big things from DJ Wonnum because of Andre Patterson. Andre Patterson is the best at drafting defensive linemen, and also not only is the best at drafting defensive linemen, but developing defensive linemen. And that's what I think is going to happen with DJ Wonnum. Now, this season, I wouldn't expect huge stats from DJ Wonnum because, of course, when you don't have a good secondary, you don't record a bunch of sacks. That's just facts. If you don't have a good secondary, there's open receivers, and quarterbacks can easily just pass to those guys. That's why Kirk doesn't even get sacked that much. This season he has been. In 2019, 2018, Kirk didn't get sacked a lot because he always threw those check down passes to Cook as a last resort, kind of. I'm excited to see what DJ Wonnum can do. This Minnesota Vikings draft class is very good so far. With Justin Jefferson and Jeff Gladney looking like good starters. Now, of course, Jeff Gladney was a first-round draft pick, and he is a corner, so you wouldn't expect huge things out of him so far. He was the 31st overall pick, and I would expect Jeff Gladney to be probably a good nickel going forward, which that's good. That's good. I know a first-round draft pick, you may not want them to be a nickel back very much because, of course, it doesn't hold the same amount of value as an outside corner. But what we see from tight ends in the league today and slot corners from the league today, that is very important. And that's why I think Jeff Gladney and Justin Jefferson will look great going forward. Cameron Dantzler, of course. Ezra Cleveland, we have to see what we can see from him. DJ Wonnum is going to be our starter likely. James Lynch, possibly. We have a lot of pieces that we can see going forward as great players. I'm excited to see what the Minnesota Vikings draft class can do. I think this was a great draft class. And going forward, this will likely be one of the best Vikings draft classes. That's my prediction right now. As Justin Jefferson is looking great. Jeff Gladney in the future could be looking amazing. Ezra Cleveland, got to see more from him. DJ Wonnum, James Lynch, Cameron Dantzler. This draft class is looking really good for the Vikings. And I would expect big things from DJ Wonnum especially, as I do think he will be the starter going forward. Now we're gonna have to see how he plays this rest of the season, but going forward, I think he will be the starter with Danielle Hunter. Now the question is, what will happen to Ifeadi Odenigbo? Well, I think Ifeadi Odenigbo is a good filler piece. I don't think he is a starting defensive end. He's slow. He's not very strong. Yes, he records a lot of sacks and tackles, and that's what you'd like. But with the way he plays, he is an interior pass rusher, and that's it. I know he plays on the outside, and that's where he primarily plays. That's his position. He is an interior pass rusher the way he plays. Not much of a run stopper either. That's why we have James Lynch, Jaleel Johnson, Shamar Stephen, although I do think Shamar Stephen will be gone. That's why we have Jalen Holmes even. That's why we got a bunch of these pieces, is for that interior pass rushing, or that interior run stopping. And then Ifeadi Odenigbo is an interior pass rusher. And that's where I do think they will play him more. He did amazing in 2019 as a backup defensive end, and they played him on the inside as well. So that's what I think will happen to Ifeadi Odenigbo going forward. Outside of that, DJ Wonnum and Danielle Hunter will be our outside defensive ends. And that's because of Andre Patterson. I love Andre Patterson. He's the only person on the Vikings coaching staff that they should keep. The rest of them, they got to move on. Andre Patterson's great. Let me know what y'all think.